Welcome to the Gold Standard here on the 440 Sports Network, brought to you by Sinkers Beverages. I am Braden Gall. That is Emma Lingan. Emma, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. You got the time of day right this time. It's a good start.
So, we switched to the afternoon. It took me 3 to 4 months to get ready to learn how to say good afternoon to you. Much like an Andrew Brunette coached hockey team, it takes me a long time to get going. And I'm done for the day. I'm done for the day. That's it. I'm out. All right. So we are going to end the show today on an actual high note with an actual piece of positive information and conversation to hopefully send you off on your weekend with some good vibes. Not toxic vibes, but good vibes. We're going to send you off with that. Lots of stuff swirling. It's all alleged. It's all rumor mill. It's all reporting. It's not really reporting, excuse me. It's more feels and I'm feeling this and I'm thinking that. But there are people out there that are not just folks that sort of like have opinions on Twitter about what's going on with Nashville, the future of Nashville, some trade opportunities, the future of the coaching staff, etc. So we will try to take them each piece by piece and kind of work through what we think people are saying about the team, what they're saying about Juuse Saros, what they're saying about Andrew Brunette, what they're saying about the locker room. And then I think you and I can have some conversations around what are the implications of some of these decisions. And I want to try to do it in a smart way where we say, look, is Juuse Saros being traded an option right now? We don't know for sure. But hypothetically, if it was to happen, what are the things we need to consider? If it's not, what are the things we need to consider? So it's okay to have like an intelligent, rational, long form conversation about sports. It used to happen at sports bars. Now it happens on podcasts. But so we're going to do that today. And I think there's a lot of similarities. Adam and I talked about this on the subscriber pod on Monday. There's a lot of similarities, at least from a feeling standpoint. Again, back to the vibes, Emma. From the trip to Dallas for the Winter Classic, where Ryan Ellis was basically his career was ended, I think, after that hit. Maybe he came back. I can't remember, honestly. And by Corey Perry, I believe. And Peter Laviolette was fired not right after that game, but after they got home from the trip, which I think involved a couple of games on the West Coast in California. There are a lot of similar vibes to that going to Sweden this week. And then I'm going to ask you hypothetically, Emma, what a theoretical turnaround could look like at this stage. So lots of stuff to get to. Do you think you can handle all of that, Emma Lingan? I think you're ready for it, but I'm just, how are you feeling about all of this?
Oh, I think I can. When you said rational conversation, rational, intelligent conversation, speak in my language, unlike a lot of other people in the internet verse. So yes, Let's have a rational discussion.
Human beings are awful and their worst selves on the internet when you don't have human reaction to affect your behavior. It's amazing what happens when you say mean things to someone's face, how that person's reaction to you stops you from doing that to people. Number one, you're more of a human being. Number two, that other person can hit you in the face. Just want to point that out. So lots of stuff to get to. If you want to jump into the comment section, please do so. I'm seeing Nashlana, Mitch, Lop, Nate, all you guys in the comments already. So appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Let's start with generally this trip here. I want to start with that. Then we'll get to what a theoretical turnaround could look like, the toxic energy as alluded to by one national expert, and then the Saros trade as alluded to by another national expert. We'll get to all of that. But it does feel like, so they give up 6 goals and Juuse Saros is pulled to a team that has been shut out 5 times at home. They are now 5-9-4. They were through 18 games. They were 5-10-3 last year, so basically identical through 18 games. They were 8-10 the year before that in Andrew Brunette's first season. So under 500, but significantly better, I guess. But still, 10 losses there. 2.6 goals per game this year, 2.3 last year, 3.3 the year before that. 3.6 goals allowed per game is even worse than they were last year at 3.2 goals per game allowed. Since the start of last season, Andrew Brunette is 35, 53, and 12. He has almost 20 games under 500. And I think I saw a chart in the subscriber chat that has the projections for points for Nashville finishing last behind Chicago and I believe worst in the NHL. Gavin McKenna, come on down. The other Aiden Fink.
Yeah.
Still
not because the draft lottery does exist, but I see your point.
Sure,
yes.
Sure. Roman Josi, your captain and prized possession, will not be on the trip. They're going to play the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are defying time and age in some crazy way. I don't know what devil Sidney Crosby worships, but I'm sure it's something. Malkin also having a great season as well. Right now, you're going to wake up early, and all signs indicate that the Penguins are going to have a good time this weekend against the Preds. I feel for Philip Forsberg in particular, being back in his home country with the way this team feels right now. So do you get the feeling that this has some similar vibes to the trip to Dallas in the Winter Classic, that if they play poorly again and they fall to 5-11, they lose both games in the way they have been losing games lately, that there is a change when they get back to the States? Because they're not going to do anything in Sweden, obviously.
I do. I do think that that's reasonable to expect, but it is kind of a funny hypothetical to think, well, what if they win both games? What if something happens and they win both games? Then I would imagine probably nothing happens with Andrew Brunette, or like the change doesn't happen. I'm not saying that's the right move or the right course of action, but I'm saying I could see that being what happens. Look, with how bad the team is right now and how bad the vibes are, it's not just the stats, it's also the vibes. As you said, not good. I think ownership, or not ownership necessarily, but the front office needs to send a message. They need to send a message that, hey, we get it and we're not okay with it. We're not going to stand idly by and just let this play out and keep running it back and expecting different results. So I do think that the most obvious way to send that message is to make a coaching change. Now, do I think all of this falls on Andrew Brunette? No. Do I think that firing Andrew Brunette is going to fix everything with this team? No. But, if you're a team, I think you get that sort of new coach bump that happens all the time. See last year's St. Louis Blues, but also remember that the bump doesn't last forever. See this year's St. Louis Blues. And I think that you have to look at, this is a much bigger issue. This is not going to be solved. The biggest issue I see here is roster construction. And I've said this before. I've talked about it not being a fit. So getting rid of Andrew Brunette isn't going to change the roster construction. Let's say Luke Richardson, who's the one guy on the staff who has NHL head coaching experience. Let's say he steps in as the interim head coach. Is there anything he can do drastically differently to get drastically different results from this roster? I don't think so. But again, it comes back to roster construction. So I see a lot of people saying, oh, Barry Trotz needs to be fired. Listen, Barry Trotz may have been responsible for this mess. He is responsible for the roster construction, but firing him doesn't fix the problem. The roster doesn't go with him. It's all still there. So I think that this is a much bigger issue, something that is not going to be fixed overnight. It's something that's not going to be addressed in just one or two moves. I think this is going to be a long ongoing thing. I know people want the rebuild. I think you're kind of headed for that at this point, but there's a lot of nuance to it and a lot of patience required.
Do you this is a good spot for us to talk through maybe a theoretical turnaround, what that even looks like? Because theoretically it could happen. They started 8-10 2 years ago. They made the playoffs. Now that required the longest winning streak basically in team history to do that, or the longest stretch of elite hockey in team history to do that. So in theory, it's all very possible, but I don't even know how to articulate, and that is literally my job for 20-something years now, how to articulate what would have to happen for it to work. Because, I mean, Josi has to be fully healthy and play the rest of the year. Philip Forsberg has to be a total machine. The young players have to develop into players like Matthew Wood, not just I'm a solid 9-minute a guy on the fourth line. Like they need to be contributing main members. You don't trade any of the veterans and they all get way better instantly after over 100 games of not. I just, it's hard to even make the case for what a turnaround would look like. And I'm not saying, like, I say this, Emma, knowing full well that hockey is weird and hockey teams are weird and the hockey season is weird and hockey is just a weird sport where teams can find a thing a la the Blues last year or the Preds 2 years ago, and they can have long stretches of good hockey. But I don't even, like, what does it actually look like to you? Describe to me what an actual theoretical turnaround looks like to you. One that makes sense to keep Andrew Brunette, to keep the veterans, to keep the whole ship pointed in the same direction.
You mean with the current roster, what it would
I
look
mean, what
like?
that's the only thing they can do this year, right? Is like, what does a turnaround actually, this season, what would a turnaround actually look like?
I see. Yeah, I think, well, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. This isn't a playoff team this year. Then that shouldn't be the goal at this point. I think the goal should be getting those younger players into more prominent roles, having the veterans moving the veterans that you can move, first of all, getting younger players. I don't know that you really need many more assets. You don't need more draft picks. I think that you just need to elevate those younger players into roles, not only just elevate them, but they need to be successful in those roles. And they need to prove that they can be, if the whole thing is about like, let's trust Andrew Brunette and the system and the strategy and everything that comes with him, then as you have said before, Braden, we need to see the younger players actually get better in that system with some consistency. And we haven't seen that over now. This is year 3 under Andrew Brunette. We haven't seen that. So it's clear as day right now that the veterans don't work with this system, or at least some of them don't work with this system. But right now, if you're Nashville, what the veterans are doing should not be that shouldn't be your point of focus anymore. It's been enough time. We've seen enough. Last year wasn't a fluke. This is what this team is. And as far as a turnaround this year, a turnaround means making a beeline for that rebuild and just speeding towards it.
Well, and I mean, I agree with you. I'm thinking through, like, again, teams all of a sudden flip a switch and they find things and they end up winning a bunch of games. And because the game's weird. It just is weird. It doesn't really happen in the NBA. It doesn't really happen. It happens a lot in baseball, actually, where you get a team of like guys that just kind of overachieve because they buy in, and all of a sudden they get some, maybe like 2 good pitchers can carry a team, over a 2-month stretch, and all of a sudden they're in a wild card chase, right? Like it doesn't happen. It's not, it can occasionally happen in the NFL. It's much more hockey and baseball, in my opinion. I don't see, I mean, again, that's all in theory possible. I don't see how it's actually possible.
Well, yeah, because right now you don't have anyone on the team who's capable of putting the team on their back like that. Where you could say, like, I mean, look,
Forsberg might just stay in Sweden. He's like, I'm just going to stay here.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
He's the one that could do it, but
he's the one who could. But again, that's not realistic, as you said. And even if it did happen, it's not sustainable. That's not going to, Forsberg taking over and carrying this entire team on his back is not going to tell us anything valuable about this team. We're not going to learn anything about the team other than that it's not a good team if you need Forsberg to do all the work. Yeah. Quite honestly, now Monday's game against the Rangers notwithstanding, quite honestly, the guy who's been giving them the best chance to win the games is the guy between the pipes in Juuse Saros. He's the one who has been giving them chances, and they've been squandering almost all of them. And so I think that if you look at it's, you have to look, take a step back, take many steps back, and look at just the big picture here, and look at, even if you're okay, not literally, I think even if you're looking at, what's wrong with this team and how can they realistically make a turnaround, I think what you come to, the conclusion you come to, is that they're not realistically making a turnaround. And that's kind of the ultimate question, or the ultimate point here, rather, to answer that question, where I think you come to the conclusion that something needs to change.
I find myself asking that question and not finding an answer like you just articulated. Like there is no reasonable path to the turnaround as it is currently constructed, the entire thing. And then you start to consider the alternative, and we're going to discuss this, which is the merits, the positives and negatives, the risks and rewards of trading Juuse Saros. And I would also add trading Roman Josi. I think those two moves, and all of a sudden your path becomes quite clear. And so that's the issue I have, is that I am having I can't see this one, and now I can really see this one really well over here. And so we'll get to that, and we'll discuss that in a little bit more in depth. But I want to talk through this toxic energy thing here. So Frank Saravelli, national reporter covering the NHL. I believe this is this was you quote tweeted this from the Rumor Report account, which is a very good follow out there. What is this on?
Well,
Bleach? Is it?
Let me stop you right there. Good follow if you take it with a grain of salt. The Rumor Report is very clickbaity. So
Sure.
they publish things, but they tend to not add a lot of context. So Frank did an interview on Bleacher Report.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
From.
So is this is this verbatim what he said? Quote, "The vibes are not high. It seems to be a toxic energy that's there, and they need to ... to flush that. It's gonna be difficult for Trotz to move some of those veteran contracts. I think they have to make a coaching change." This is from Bleacher Report. Now, most of that is self-explanatory and master of the obvious stuff. I do think it's interesting. So I want to get into your response to the toxic energy, because I don't think when a national reporter, and he may be, I don't know him well, I don't know him personally, so I don't know if he's changed into a clickbait artist and he's sort of trolling for a response or whatever, which just feels like every national reporter on any beat these days that's their career path at the end of it all. Normally, when you say that phrase around a team, you are not talking about the fans feeling towards the team being broken or not winning or not doing well. Normally, I can't remember an Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport or Buster Olney, these guys that are kind of at that level. They don't put that phrase in a report or a comment and say, this is just about the fans. That's how you read it, and I want you to kind of explain why you think that.
Well, because, as you mentioned, Frank is a national reporter. He's not here in Nashville. He is not in the locker room. He's not around this team. Now, I'm not saying that as a sense of saying he doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm saying he is reputable, and he does, whatever he is commenting on, it's going to be what information he has access to. What information he has access to, he follows me, he follows he sees everything that everyone else sees on the internet. So who in their right mind would look at Preds Twitter right now and not agree that the vibes are toxic? And so again, it's not to say that, oh, the fans are toxic and that's what needs to change. What he's saying is that, look, clearly all of the vibes around the team are very negative right now, and understandably so. And something needs to change. Again, most likely it's going to be a coaching change, but it probably needs to be a little more than that. So something needs to change to flush those bad vibes. Now, what people, because again,
so let's take that part of it here. I think it goes without saying that fans are frustrated and upset.
Yeah.
And that's a bad energy. That's a bad vibe. That's a bad. All you got to do is look at Bridgestone Arena at any of the last few games. Fans are apathetic. They're pissed off. They're upset about ticket prices. They're upset about what they're watching. And I think it was Josh in the comments here. I'm going to see if I can find it real fast. He goes, at a certain point, you have to say the product on the ice is not acceptable, and you can't fire the players. That's I think that sums up the fans' kind of feeling full-heartedly. My question is,
it's a totally understandable feeling. No one is arguing that. No one is saying that the fans are wrong for feeling that way. I just think that if you're someone who's not in the market, someone who is reporting based on what they see, and listen, I know Frank, and I've worked with him before with the PHWA, and I think that he is genuinely not trying to be clickbaity here. But the problem is people really latched on to that word toxic. They really latched onto it. And I think that sometimes semantics are really not that important. Sometimes you need to not latch onto a single word. And so people took that and they took my explanation and they said, well, we're not toxic. We're not the problem. It's like, no, okay.
Well,
Those are
right.
two different things,
Right.
two different things. Just because there's a toxic energy in the fan base, it doesn't mean that the fans are wrong to be mad. It doesn't mean that they're the problem. It means that their bad energy is a result of the bad product that's on the ice. We're all making the same argument here.
Fans can't have bad energy. Like they're entitled to feel however they want to feel. And it's the team's job to fix that. I want to go back to, so I think the phrase,
that's exactly what I'm saying. It's on the team. Oh, Braden's gone again. He left me here. He did this last week too. So now I'll just get on my soapbox and I will say that I think the fans absolutely are entitled to feel however they want to feel. I'm still talking, so now you got to wait till I'm done. I think the fans are entitled to feel exactly how they want to feel, and they are absolutely right for being angry, for being frustrated. Saying that the energy within the fan base and around the team is toxic is not a criticism of the fans. It's a criticism of the team for creating this bad energy. And all I'm trying to do here is to simply differentiate, because a lot of people saw the word toxic and they went the clickbaity route and they thought, ooh, who's fighting in the locker room? Somebody doesn't like each other. And that's a different issue.
Yes, totally different. But I think, unfortunately, and this is just my 25 years of doing this, or 21 years of doing this. I don't know why I just added 5 years to my career. I would never say the vibes are not high. It seems like there's a toxic energy there and they need to flush that. I would never say that about fans. That is a phrase I've never uttered about fans, other than Tennessee Vols when they're like,
it's
for
not
15
about
years.
No.
But let me finish. No, you had just let me work through this.
They doesn't mean the fans. They doesn't mean the fans need to flush it.
But you can't. What I'm saying is I read that and I don't for 1 second think he's talking about the fan energy towards the team. I read that quote and I read that as him saying it doesn't mean that there's fighting in the locker room. It means that there's a bad energy, a bad juju, bad vibes. I don't know what toxic energy he's referring to. If he's reporting on something, he needs to do that. Otherwise, he's just speculating, and then it is a little clickbaity. Unless, again, and they need to flush that. That's the one that I latched onto, is they need to flush that, which is, how does the organization clear this thing out of its system? Because you cannot clear the fans out of your system. You can't do that. That's not
no one's suggesting that. No one is saying.
Okay. That report does not read. That report reads like he knows something is behind the scenes happening. That's what that reads like, 100%. In my
but
opinion.
He doesn't. If he's going to report, then he needs to report it. He's not reporting. He is reporting on what he sees, which is all of the negativity on social media, all of the negativity around the team that, yes, comes from the fan base, who have every right to be negative because they're pissed off and they're fed up and they don't like the product that's on the ice, nor should they. And so no one is saying here that somewhere along the line, this got twisted. No one is saying the fans are the problem and they need to be flushed out. It's two separate arguments here. It's two separate topics. There is a bad energy, bad juju, bad vibes. That's coming from his observation of what the fans are saying. That's one thing. Now, part two of that is the team needs to flush that. They need to fix that. It's not the fans' fault. It's not the fans' problem. It's that the team needs to change and they need to get better if they want that bad energy to go away. I don't appreciate being told, not by you, but I don't appreciate being told that I don't appreciate my words getting twisted. I don't appreciate my words getting twisted in fans who are trying to turn themselves into victims by using something that I said and taking it completely out of context.
To me, it's more interesting, like from your perspective. Do you have information or do you have a feeling or stuff on background that you can't talk about that makes you sense, because you've said it now a couple of different times, that there is nothing behind the scenes that is happening with this organization? We had all kinds of off the scene, like this is the other problem. In context, you have the Marcia Show stuff all at the end of last season. You have all of the summer meetings that took place. You have all of the conversation. Then you have this little like, oh, they're yelling at each other and finish. Like, I'm not saying any of it indicates that there's a fight happening in the locker room. But it would be common sense. It would be common sense to think through human beings who are struggling, especially guys who are veterans who have never struggled in their lives before. Ryan O'Reilly's out there calling himself a crybaby, which is his words about how I should have kept my mouth shut. I'm just saying everything that we see over the last 6 months has kind of contextualized and confirmed what he's saying here, which is there's bad energy in the building. And it doesn't mean people are fighting.
Yes.
But I don't.
That's all I'm saying. There's bad energy. That doesn't mean people are fighting with each other. Saros and Hala were yelling about the officiating. They were expressing frustration together about this same exact thing. Ryan O'Reilly melts down like that at least once a week.
And he said nothing wrong, by the way. He said nothing wrong. He just said he was being self-critical, and he said, hey, man, I got to be better. I can't complete a pass. He's frustrated after losing games. Like, I don't have a problem with what Ryan O'Reilly did.
And this is one that just happened to go viral. But people who, again, social media gives people a platform to speak with authority on something that they don't understand. So when fans or outside observers, whoever, come in and say, oh, well, it's a problem, and it's like, well, yeah, of course it's a problem. The energy is going to be bad because the team is awful. They're losing. As much as the fans hate watching it, multiply that times 1,000, and that's how much the players hate going through this. And so again, it can be two different things. Literally all I was trying to do was to say that everybody before, well, not even before, because people started doing it anyway, but people already started taking and pulling at that thread and thinking, oh, toxic energy, who's feuding? And it's like, no, it doesn't mean they're fighting with each other. They're frustrated. They're all pissed off, and that's going to lead to heightened tensions.
Of course.
That's just human nature.
Yeah, and I don't care what people on the internet do, because they're stupid and they're idiots, generally speaking. But I do think it's a fair reaction to read that quote and be like, what toxic energy? Now he says
all I was doing was explaining that.
He says it seems, which is also sounds like speculation on his part, which is another thing that's kind of can be frustrating in these conversations. If he's just guessing from a distance, then it's not really a report. It's not really, anything that's worth mentioning. And if you feel pretty comfortable that there's not some discontent behind the scenes between players and coach, or players and players, or whatever, then like I have not heard that stuff either. So I don't have a problem with that. But
there's discontent with the results, as there should be. There's plenty of discontent to go around, but people who aren't in the locker room, people who don't talk to these guys, people who don't report on this team, going on the internet and speaking with authority and saying, well, obviously there's feuding, or it's bad vibes, that Steven Stamkos is a locker room cancer, whatever it is, like all of that stuff.
That guy.
No, like
of all the players to call a cancer.
People are pissed off, and it is making them interpret things in the worst possible way, whether it's what Frank said, whether it's what I said, whether it's anything that happens with this team. People are going to be interpreting it the worst possible way. And also, because I'm fired up right now, there's a comment right now that I would like you to share about youth, talent, and hope.
Okay.
I'm going to just say that.
You want to read it? Or do you want me to read it?
Oh, I can't talk about 2017 because the fans really don't like when I talk about it. So I'm not going to say it. You can read it.
Youth talent hope. That's how you flush out mediocrity. We've been living in the 2017 just happened delusion too long. I don't really have a problem with that comment. Is there something wrong with it that I'm missing?
Oh, I'm not allowed to talk about it because I wasn't here in 2017.
Oh,
so
stop. I will. Come on. I do think man, that's a big can of worms that I wasn't intending to talk about today because I mean, it's very easy to point to.
Fans get very mad when I bring up that argument. And when I say that, hey, 2017 was a long time ago, woo, people don't like it when I talk about it.
No, it's
because
you got.
I wasn't here and I don't remember when they were winning. Yes,
stop. This is not about you. Stop.
No, but what I'm saying is I wasn't in Nashville in 2017, but I was in the NHL. I wasn't a fetus. Like I knew what was going on in the league, and so I'm just saying that
a fetus. Well, I don't think you need to.
I can have an informed opinion.
Yeah, yes, of course. That's why you're on the show. That's why we want you on the show. Look, there is the general manager's son is like one of the top 3 general managing positions on the team right now. And the guy who used to be the coach is the general manager. Like, don't tell me this organization has moved on. It has not. By definition, it may be the right people in the right places. I'm not saying those people should be fired. I know a lot of people in the comments are saying Barry Trotz should be fired and Brian Poyle should be fired or whoever else should be fired. You want to fire everybody. That's what happens when your organization is not doing good things. But it is they are clearly like trying to ride 2017's coattails every step of the way. Now, the one time they changed that was, of course, when they fired John Hines in very kind of strange fashion and hired Brunette and traded off Matthias Ekholm and a bunch of other people, Tanner Jeannot and everybody else. And so there's no way. Like this is a perfect segue into the next main topic, which is about Juuse Saros. And this was Jeff Merrick and a few other people kind of speculating about the Edmonton Oilers. Like what can the Edmonton Oilers do to try to get themselves over the final hurdle and the final hump, because Stuart Skinner's not the answer and Juuse Saros is a significant upgrade. Sinkers Beverages, by the way. When you wake up at 7:30 in the morning on Saturday and Sunday and need a drink, make sure you check out Sinkers Beverages. Search Uber Eats, have that booze delivered directly to your house. Allocation season is here. They've got the best possible bourbons you can buy. They've got great opportunities on the shelf. But if you sign up for the in-crowd, which is so you guys know the deal. That's sort of the customer appreciation club. There's not a lot of emails. There's not a lot of texts. They don't do any of that stuff. It's like 3 emails a year. And it's like, hey, we're going to give you an awesome bottle of bourbon at cost if you join the in-crowd and you're one of our best customers. So there you go. You have opportunities to get really rare stuff at really good prices, but you got to be a part of the in-crowd. So sign up. And you can search, of course, Uber Eats, get that booze delivered directly to your house. Search Sinkers Beverages, 5-time liquor store of the year, 2-time craft beer cooler of the year, all this other great stuff. Oh, just great wines in there. I don't even know anything about wine, but they've got great ones. I keep picking out great wines, and I just don't tell my wife that Sinkers is the one picking them out for me. I just claim that I did it. So I'm riding Sinkers coattails the way Barry's riding 2017's coattails. Okay. So the Saros trade thing is so we talk about breaking from the past, not riding the 2017 coattails, truly picking a direction, clarifying the path forward. When you start to talk about all these different things about the organization, the one way all of that gets crystallized and sort of laid out in front of the fans is by trading Juuse Saros, because there's no return from that. There's no Askarov in the pipeline. The best prospect at that position is in college. You are years away from replacing him fully. And so if you trade Juuse Saros, just as a consideration at the start of the conversation, you have picked a clear lane, which I think many fans would be fine with if you are just honest about what it means over the next few years. If you look at the numbers, they are projected to be potentially the worst team in the NHL. They have a lot of veterans that they can trade very easily that we've talked about ad nauseum on the show for months now. We know all the names: Bunting, Holla, O'Reilly, McCarron, etc. I assume that if this continues, the veterans are going to come to the organization and say, I'm willing to move my no movement or waive my no movement clause. Probably Stamkos, maybe not Marchessault because he likes his no income tax. Shea probably wants to stay here. All of that is a clearly defined path. It probably involves a sacrificial lamb for the head coaching spot. And I don't know if that's Carl Taylor. I don't know if that's Luke Richardson. I don't know who that would be. But you cannot imagine that if you trade Saros, that the next guy is going to have an expectation to make the playoffs. It's going to be develop the young players, build up this roster, probably be here for 3 years of really bad hockey, and then get fired and have the other guy take over and win. Like that's what you see across the league. So that path is appealing to a lot of people. And it clearly defines a direction for the franchise. And I think people, the people like you and I, who value Juuse Saros, who think he's one of the best players on the team right now, who think the contract is actually a really good contract, at least for the next 3 to 4 years. He's underpaid relative to the rest of the NHL, et cetera, et cetera. I still see the value in clearly defining the direction of the franchise. And I'm on board with it now. Like, I'm here. I'm there. I've gotten there. I'm like, let's do it. Like,
I'm not. Okay. I mean, again, there's nuance to this. As much as a lot of people don't like to see nuance in any argument, there is. And I think that first you have to look at taking a step back and talking about the direction. A clear path, a clear direction. Lest we forget, Barry Trotz picked a direction when he went for it and he signed those veterans and he signed Saros to that extension. Now, no one is saying, please hear me when I say, I'm not saying that because he picked that direction, he's not allowed to deviate from it. What I'm saying is that you got to give him credit for picking the direction when he did, because for 25 years, this team was kind of like, well, we'll be in the mushy middle and we'll never be bad enough to tank, but we'll never be good enough to make it out of the first round. Barry Trotz did something that David Poile was never going to do. He went full send on the we're going to win right now. Now, has every move that he's made since then corresponded to that path? No. And that's where the criticism, rightfully so, comes in of Barry Trotz and how he's run the team. So I'm with you that you have to pick a path and stick to it. And now because you picked the other path and didn't stick to it, you don't really have a choice now but to go for the rebuild path. Now, that's part one.
Maybe Barry Trotz's most redeeming quality is that he's willing to change paths multiple times.
Well, it's in pencil.
He doesn't have a choice.
Yeah. No, but again, he picked a direction on day one of this whole thing, but then he didn't stick to it. That's the problem. The problem isn't that he didn't pick a direction. So I take issue with people arguing he doesn't know what he's doing. No, he did once. Now his issue is that he didn't stick to it. And that is fully worth criticizing.
I would say twice. I would say he picked a path and then twice reacted to what he saw.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, that's true. But I'm if we're talking square one being the Stamkos Marchessault signing, like that whole thing, I'm talking about that. I don't really think about the year before. Like,
but see, that is chapter 2 though, because chapter 1 is sitting next to David Poile and trading every good asset you've got, firing Hines, bringing in your guy Andrew Brunette, and then that's the path. You pick a path right there that summer, and then they overachieve like crazy. And at the deadline, he goes and gets, I think smartly, Beauvillier and Zucker, which cost the team nothing, and it actually helped them play interesting and meaningful hockey down the stretch. Then he changes the path. So he picks one path, then he picks a second path, and now we're on to the third path. And now I just have the scene from there's lots of old people listening, so you guys will appreciate this with me. The Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where they're just the knights who say near, just like a path down the middle. If you know what I'm talking about, you know. So I think that's chapter 2 is the July 1 spending spree. I think that's chapter 2.
You're right. So the point is he has picked directions, but he's
no conviction
wobbled on that. He doesn't have he doesn't have conviction. So I think that
And we'll place the first shrubbery next to the second shrubbery. And the second level will make a little two-layer effect. The path in the middle. Continue. Sorry.
Thank you. I just think that it's not the result of not picking a direction. It's the result of picking a direction, wavering on it, going back to it, and then going back. So that's just kind of the crux of the issue here.
This choose your own adventure story has flesh wounds. It's merely a flesh wound. You shall cut down the mightiest tree in the forest with a herring. All right, continue.
Okay.
Lop for you here. Point streak was the worst thing that could have happened to the team. You've said that for like months now.
Yes, I've been saying that all year. So I think the point is now when you look at what needs to be done, I mean, as far as where you're at now, because you, Barry Trotz, have flip-flopped so many times on the direction, you've now kind of left yourself with no option. The win now option is not even an option anymore. But that's part one. Part two, I still think that you go the rebuild route, and I still think Juuse Saros is more valuable to this team right now than whatever you're going to get for him right now.
All right. So I think it's healthy for us to have sort of slightly different perspective on this, and I think that's going to make for a good conversation because I think, number one, I think everyone listening, every Preds fan, media, and I think general managers and coaches and players, humility is really important when analyzing a decision like this because there's a really good chance that there's an equal % chance that if you trade him away, it's a great move or a terrible move. If you keep him, it could be a great move or a terrible move. And the truth is, it's probably going to be both, depending on what year you're talking about. I would guess if you keep him, Juuse Saros, the first couple of years, he will be a tremendous asset for the organization. Maybe 3, maybe 4 years. The last 3 or 4 years of the contract will not be. And so you have to gauge when's the right time to try to get out from underneath the contract, because I think right now it's a very good deal. I think paying 7 3/4 for a top 10 goalie who's not getting paid like a top 10 goalie is value as the salary cap continues to go up. So it may be an albatross 100%. down the road, but it's not an albatross right now. That's
the price of doing business too. Like to get the guy now, you have to sign him long term. I will also say that all of this rumor, like the rumor mill, again, it's all coming from speculation. And you know where it's all coming from? North of the border. It's because Canada sees Edmonton as their it's their closest chance, their only chance to getting a cup right now. And so that it's a lot of propaganda pushing this whole Saros Edmonton thing. It's exactly what I cover baseball, as we know. It's exactly what's happening right now in the baseball off season when there's no real news yet. Yeah. So all of the beat reporters turn into gossip columnists, and it's all like, well, this team needs a goalie. This guy is a goalie, but he plays for a bad team. That's all it is.
That is how trades get started, though.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's not. It doesn't mean that there's any actual juice to this yet.
A watery tart throwing scimitars around is no logical form of government. Okay, come back here and I'll bite your legs off. So what's interesting to me is I agree with you that all of it is speculative and it's not real. Barry Trotz is probably not having conversations about this, but I think it's interesting to talk through what it could mean, because I do think you should be able to get a really healthy return. I do think you should be able to get, and Edmonton to me doesn't have this. I don't know their prospects. It doesn't look like they have a lot of prospects. It doesn't look like they don't have a first round pick next year.
They don't have any.
They don't have cap space.
Nashville got their last good prospect in the Matthias Ekholm trade. That was it. They put all their eggs into the win now basket, so they have no farm system.
And
nothing
Nurse
that would interest the Predators.
And Darnell Nurse is a really, really good player, but I think he's best friends with McDavid, so I don't think that's happening anytime soon. So the point is like it's all speculation, and I'm acknowledging that on the front end of the conversation. But what fans are desperate for is some sort of like actual vision for the path forward. And if you do this, or if you speculate as a general manager, or if it gets out there that the Preds are shopping him, or that people have made offers to the Preds or whatever, it does clearly define, because there is no coming back from that trade. That you could fire Brunette, hire a coach, and be good next year. You could trade Stamkos and bring up a center and be good next year. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but there is no coming back from trading Saros. You trade Saros, you are into the deep rebuild, period. Whatever's in pencil becomes pen at that point. It's Sharpie because you've traded Saros and you have no backup plan at all unless you think Ananen is ready, and I don't think he is. Ivankovic is still years away from even sniffing the NFL or the NFL or the NHL, either one. And I think, again, there's positives to trading him. There's negatives to trading him. There's positives to keeping him, and you don't really know what's going to happen. But the thing that gets me excited, if I'm a fan, is the idea of being really, really bad. I know this is a crazy thing to say out loud. You had a top 5 pick last year. You could have a top 5 pick this year with Saros. If you don't want to use up Juuse Saros' prime years, the next 2 or 3, on the worst team in the NHL. It doesn't really serve any purpose. He doesn't sell tickets necessarily. He's a great guy and you want to do right by him, but it doesn't really bring any value to the team to have his best years be wasted on an awful team. So you can start seeing the calculus here, which makes sense to move him. And I think Roman Josi is in the same category. 2.5 years left on the contract. You could probably get a pretty big return for him in the offseason next year. I don't know why, if you trade Saros, you wouldn't then immediately turn around and try to trade Roman Josi as well. And when you do that, you should have enough assets, prospects, picks, and cap space to try to be the bad thing for a while, to be San Jose, Chicago, Colorado, these teams that have gone through a terrible hockey period to come out the other end looking real good like Utah and Anaheim do now. So I think that it brings not closure to the fans, but I think it brings peace and interest back to the fans. Does that make sense?
I see what you're saying. I understand that, like, symbolically what trading Saros would mean, and that it would mean like there's no coming back from this. I would argue that this team, this fan base, this organization, they're already there without trading Saros. They're already in that spot. They're already wasting his prime. They're already playing bad hockey. Now, does that mean that there aren't things that should change and can change to fix that? Of course not. I think absolutely you start selling off veterans. Everyone on an expiring contract has to go as a veteran. I mean, it makes sense. You change the coach, you do whatever. Again, Juuse Saros, right now, if you're the Predators, you have zero leverage. Like, you have zero leverage in any kind of trade talks because everyone knows how bad you are, how bad you messed up with this whole roster construction, and they're going to try to fleece you for assets. Juuse Saros is the most valuable asset you have. And can I also just take a quick aside here to say he has a full no move clause. He is not going anywhere unless he wants to. Now, as you mentioned, we see players waive their no move clauses. However, I know it feels like it's been forever. Trust me, I do. I get it. But this is year one. It's year one of his 8-year contract. I don't think either side, the team or the player, is going to, in good faith, give up on the other in year one of this contract. Now, we could be having this conversation again in a couple of years. I understand that, I understand
that things change. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm saying that I just don't think that he would jump ship this quickly, or that he would want to. And again, I see what you're saying about wanting to waste, or not wanting to waste, the years of his prime, whatever. But again, like you're saying, with that contract, first 3-4 years look great. The last 3-4 years, not as great. But
every 8-year deal.
Exactly, like every 8-year deal. Ideally,
it's the Albert Pujols contract, right? Like, you give him 10 years, knowing the first 4 are going to be great. You're going to underpay for those, and then you're going to overpay the last 4. That's just the way it goes.
But ideally, what you would want in this situation is to have a developed enough farm system, have the next guy, whether it's Ivan Kovic or whoever. You want to be in a situation where you don't need Juuse Saros to be the guy in 6 years. Exactly.
Pekka phased out.
Yeah, you phase him out. Can he still be an important piece of this rebuild? Yes. I think, the neighborhood dogs have a lot to say about this. I don't know if you could hear that. But I think he could be a valuable piece of this team, even if it's not as the 1A number one starting goaltender.
Josh says, when they tell us they aren't trying to win, we won't be mad about losing. That's a good point there. Kevin says Jouse can't stay healthy enough to trade. Mortal Explorer says the only thing worse than tanking is not knowing you're doing it. The lack of self-awareness is embarrassing. Kevin says, Emma, it's been forever, but talk to us about 2017. Lop says Barry playing 4D chess. He's actually been trying to tank the whole time. LOL. Mitch says, I don't think Saros would want to jump because he'd be underpaid and likely lose trade protection in being dealt. Do you lose no movement once you waive it one time? Okay, that's interesting. Kevin says Barry is actually playing that old 2D Atari pixelated to all hell chess, I think. Good run of comments there from all you guys. If you're going to do the bad thing, why not add more tools to the toolbox or weapons to the war chest or assets, whatever you want to call it? Like, if you're going to do the bad thing and you're going to be bad at this and you're going to fire the coach and you're going to try to trade the veterans and you're going to try to get younger, all the things that we all kind of think are going to happen. If you're going to do that, the way you accelerate it even further, because it makes you worse on the ice and it gives you more to build with, is trading your most dependable piece right now or one of the better players on the team. And it also does help you open up cap space later. Not right now because he's underpaid, but later. I'm not saying that I don't think it's a possibility right now. I just don't. I think if they're really, really bad again next year, because like this year, Stamkos is going to look around him and he's going to say, I need more out of the last year or two of my career. Saros isn't there yet, right? So he plays this season. If they're here again next year and they're going into the deadline next year and they're terrible again next year, that's when guys like Juuse Saros and Josi and Forsberg look around and go, I'll waive the no movement thing because I want to go try to win a cup in the last couple of years of my career. Do me this favor, get some return for me. So I definitely see that. But if you're going to be bad, just be bad and tell the fans we're trying to be bad. Not in that way, but you know what I mean. So they will be terrible next year, says Lop. Yeah. And right now,
I'm saying the argument is sound. Like, would Juuse Saros want to waive his movement protection, go play somewhere he can win? Sure, but that argument doesn't really make sense right now in the year of our Lord 2025. It makes more sense like 4 or 5 years from now. Not saying he's absolutely going to be here for 4 or 5 years, but I'm just saying that he's not quite there yet.
All right, Sinkers Beverages, everybody. If this conversation has made you want to drink, they'll take care of you. They're phenomenal. They've won awards. They are a dominant force. They have a diverse staff of expertise in wine, in bourbon, in tequila, in beer. They've got a award-winning craft walk-in beer fridge. They've got bourbon allocations. They've got a great customer appreciation program in the in-crowd. You can have the booze delivered directly to your house. I don't know what else you need from a liquor store. Over 40 years of experience serving the community. Like they check every box, like every single box they check. So let's end on a positive note here, because I don't know what to expect against Pittsburgh over the weekend. I do think that if it goes poorly and they get back to American soil, I think there could be a decision coming in the couple of days after that. That would be my feeling. That being said, I want you to, before we get to Matthew Wood and his hat trick, I just want you to tell me, like, who are the best players on the team? Who's playing the best? Give me the 3 players that are playing the best hockey of anybody on the team right now. Is it Nick Blankenberg?
He's
is it
up
Nick Perbix? Is it everybody named Nick?
Perbix, Blankenberg, Saros, Wood, Forsberg. I mean,
Forsberg is scoring a little bit lately,
yeah, he's scoring a little bit lately. But yeah, I mean, if you're going on recent performance, yeah, I mean, Blankenberg and Perbix are your 2 best defensemen.
If Nick Blankenberg and Nick Perbix are your two best defensemen, you should trade Juuse Saros. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I just wish that Nick Blankenberg was like 6'2", 220, you know?
Hey, I'm sure he does too.
I know. That's true. That's true. It is what it is. Forsberg, Saros, and Wood from Dat CFO. I think that's pretty fair. Matthew Wood, hat trick, 6 goals in 11 games, 4 assists. I actually don't know what the rookie goal scoring record is. Do you? Do you know what the record is? I'll have to double check that. Hat trick on Monday against the Rangers. And what I thought was interesting is I saw the first goal, and I don't know if this is just having covered the team for as long as I have. He's in the right place at the right time. So this is not a negative towards Matthew Wood, but the first goal is clearly just like an accidental, like I smacked it in and it got in there and it's fine. And like, it was good, but it seems like a couple of other goals that he scored this year have kind of not like soft, but like, I think this first goal kind of deflected off a stick and went through the 5-hole, I think. And then the second and third goals on Monday against the Rangers were all talent, just pure talent. The one-timer from the point was just an absolute blast. The quick release on the slot shot. Now, granted, they were down 5-1 and 6-2 in those situations, so it's not like the defense was necessarily grinding, but those actually were him showing his offensive skill. He seems to be in the right place at the right time. He's learning a ton from being on lines with veteran players. I think there's a lot of good here that we're seeing from Matthew Wood, and I just thought let's end on a high note by saying Matthew Wood, I think it's the second earliest hat trick ever. And only the second rookie hat trick ever. So I think 6 goals in 11 games is a pretty big statement as to what his future could be as long as they don't screw up his development.
I will first say Matthew Wood is one of the only exciting things or fun things about this team right now. I have to give him a lot of credit. Because it was probably hard for him to not be really excited. He's a 20-year-old kid who just scored a hat trick in the NHL, and he couldn't really be excited about it because it was one of the worst losses of the season.
I think your mic got turned off or something.
Did it? Oh, no.
Or turned down. There it is. There you go. Now you're good.
Okay.
Philip Forsberg, 26 goals. Tanner Jeannot, 24. Rattle off 18. I think that's correct. So continue.
I think that I will say it's really exciting. It's fun to watch Matthew Wood right now. You have to give him credit. He's a 20-year-old kid in the NHL who scored a hat trick, and he couldn't really act excited about it because it was one of the worst losses of the year for the team. And so I think you give him credit. I think he handled himself very well, but I think that
his face after the goal was like so conflicted.
Yeah.
You could tell he's like, and he's like, oh, but we're getting our ass kicked.
Yeah. And so I think that he represents what could be. He represents a piece of the future. It's very important for this team. However, not to be the resident pessimist, but I think that I don't know, there's also parallels that could be made. Not yet, because we don't know yet. But remember how excited everyone was about Phil Tomasino, Tanner Jeannot, and other rookies who did very well in their rookie year. I'm not telegraphing anything about Matthew Wood and saying that that's absolutely what's going to happen. I'm just speaking a word of caution that it's still early.
Emma Lingan reporting.
That's not to my report, Matthew Wood's success is toxic to the Predators. And that's it.
I was going to say Matthew Wood will be traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins in 2 years. That's what I thought. But by the way, he is already 22nd right now. This is the 22nd best goal scoring season by a rookie in Predators history. One behind Dan Hamhuis, Calle Yarncroke, Ryan Jones, Gabriel Bourque, and Luke Evangelista. Although Luke Evangelista is on here twice. I know that you can be a rookie more than 1 year, but Evangelista is on here twice. Arvidsson scored 8. Svechkov scored 8 last year. Tomasino scored 11 goals in his rookie year. Is that right? That can't be right. Colin Wilson had 8. Martin Erat had 9. This is just to give you kind of a sense of the history here. Fiala had 11. Great goal scoring skill there. Ellie Tolvanen had 11. Legwand had 13. Craig Smith had 14. Evangelista had 16 2 years ago. What?
Can I also just make a point here, a larger point about Wood and what it means for Barry Trotz and the Predators? We can and have argued successfully that a lot of what Barry Trotz has done with this team in terms of the NHL roster has not been good. No one's arguing that. But I think what you have to acknowledge is that so far, his drafting has looked pretty darn solid, especially for a team that is going to be depending on these younger players. Now, I've seen some people arguing, well, he's not good at drafting. Of the guys that he's drafted, only one of them is playing in the NHL right now. Yeah, because the rest of them are children. They are in college or they're in juniors.
Yeah. If you're like Aiden Fink, by the way, obviously, 7th round pick in his first draft. I know there's some conversation around Poyle still technically being in charge of that draft.
He was signing the papers.
Right. I actually specifically talked to David about that immediately. And I said, like, give me the layout of how you guys were making decisions. And he's like, well, I have to physically sign the paperwork. He literally said that to me.
Yeah.
On the record, he said, I have to do it, but Barry's making all the choices. I'm kind of along for the ride here. So I think 23 is the year you give him credit. Kalen Lind and Felix Nielsen are developing players. Mollendijk and Wood are the gems right now of the classes. You've got Stiga and Surin, who a lot of people think very highly of. And then, of course, I think the Lee, Reed, Martin trio is going to age very well, at least right now. I think so. And I think you've got Ivankovic as your goaltender of the future. So right now, I agree. The best thing he's done is the 3 drafts look solid on paper right now. So
yeah, I agree. And I think that, the true test of whether Trotz is a good GM is going to be what happens once his guys get to the NHL. What happens? Can they play in this system that he wants to play, this strategy he wants to play? Now, the problem is right now, Barry Trotz has kind of effed up his own timeline for that. And he's now in a position where he's got to probably fire the coach that he wants to coach those guys because he probably hired that coach a little bit too early.
No, I tend to agree with that. And More to Explore says what the future is missing is elite talent, elite centers. Tank and draft those with some high caliber D and profit. I think that is the plan. And right now they're on pace to be a top 2 or 3 pick again next year. You do that a couple more years and you've got a bunch of those top flight talents. What's the question? My question on the Russia thing for Surin, for example, does he have to play 2 full years? Do you have to be a certain age, or does he just decide at the end of the season he wants to come to the AHL? Like, what's the rule on that?
I think he doesn't have to be a certain age as a Russian player.
This is his second full season in the KHL, right?
Yeah, because he signed a contract. I want to say his contract that he signed was for 2 years. So I think it goes through next season.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
I think that he's there no matter what and through next season. But I think after that is when he can decide.
Okay. All right. Well, I do think looking at the farm system, we've talked about this. I think the farm system is in good shape. The drafts have been solid. And if you're trying to figure out what to hang your hat on moving forward, I think that's the way to do it. Obviously we didn't have a chance to talk about Zach LaRue getting called up just to be put on IR, basically, which is fascinating. Just sneaky move there. We'll see what happens this weekend. No Preds games. You don't have to suffer through any Preds games for the next couple of days. And then we'll see what happens in Sweden with the Penguins, a team that seems to be, defying Father Time. And whatever happens in those games could be a part of the future decision-making process. So we'll see. Sinkers Beverages always delivers. Make sure you check out Sinkers Beverages in East Nashville. Their sister store, Bluegrass Beverages in Hendersonville, serving their community for over 50 years. So 2 great local businesses that know what they're doing, know how to take care of people in Middle Tennessee. All right, thank you all for being so active and awesome in the comment section, and for all you middle-aged dads like me who appreciate Monty Python jokes. For Emma, I am Braden. Thank you for listening. Thank you for hanging out. We do appreciate you guys. Have a great one. Subscribe to Lower Broad Hockey. We'll talk to you next week.